The battle between SA Roads agency Sanral and the organisation undoing tax abuse Outa over e-tolls continues. The two organisations will square up in court soon in a case that could provide final clarity on how the user pays principle should be applied. Sanral is determined to recoup billions of rand owed to it and has prepared 6,286 summonses in a bid to recover 6.2 billion rand in outstanding e-toll debt from Gauteng motorists. Reports say if Outa lost the case, this would prompt millions of non-compliant users to pay. A Sanral loss could mean previously compliant motorists and businesses would swell the ranks of those not paying. Sanral has 38 billion rand in debt and has to be serviced, and it has battled for years to get buy-in for e-tolls from Gauteng motorists. This often jeopardized its capital-raising efforts when it went to market. And joining us on the phone line is Outa Chairman Wayne Duvenage. A very good morning to you, Wayne. Thank you so much for joining us here on Morning Prime. How successful do you feel your legal case with Sanral over an e-toll test case will be, and how could this change the user pays principle?
Well, we believe it will be very successful, and it's been challenged on a number of fronts. First of all, the legality, the way this scheme has been introduced. As we see in the Western Cape, that the e-toll decision was thrown out. The fact that the Gauteng project was already built and had gone ahead by the time the public got to know about it doesn't mean to say that it's legal. And if there's an illegal element about the introduction of e-tolls, then people do not have to pay. So that's the one issue. But the scheme itself has failed. As we know, less than 20% compliance on a user pay scheme means that it is no longer a user pay scheme. And the thing about a user pay scheme is that when you introduce one, it needs to be robust enough to demonstrate that all users will pay. So if you've got an e-toll gantry going down to Durban and the boom doesn't lift until you pay, well, that's 100% user pays, and people all realize that there aren't people getting through the system without paying. And that's the problem with the e-tolling scheme. You have to have robust administrative systems, enforcement systems, enough to make sure that at least 90%, and you deal with the 10% that aren't paying, and you can deal with it effectively. Well, this scheme never got to over 40% compliance in the height of its the coercive tactics and marketing tactics that Sanral applied in 2014, and today it's down to less than 20%. So as a user pay scheme, e-tolling in South Africa, I'm afraid, fails. It works around the world, but it works in different environments for different reasons. Here, this scheme was always going to fail as a user pay scheme. So it's time to pull that plug. But besides that, the lawfulness, we believe, is the one issue. The next issue is the workability, and it's not workable.
Now, if you won the case against Sanral, where would this leave Gauteng motorists who have paid their e-toll bills?
Well, it leaves them with them going ahead and making a decision to participate because they didn't want to run the risk of falling foul of the law. That's the 20% of the people that are still paying. You know, a lot of people who did start realized that the scheme, they were on the minority paying and decided to take their chances and not pay and exercise their rights, by the way, not to pay. By the way, of the 20% that are paying, most of these are corporate entities and government bodies, and they pass those costs on to their customers anyway. So we don't believe there's going to be a big drive for the people who've been paying to say we want our money back. I think the reality is that they paid because they minimized their risk. Other people who didn't pay took a risk. You know, people are taking a risk to say, well, I might have to appear in court, and that's a risk I'm prepared to take. So I don't believe Sanral is going to be able to refund those who have paid. I think a judgment's going to have to be reached, or a sensible decision, by the way. You don't have to go to court to have this judgment. Government, at some stage, sanity might prevail for them to make the decision and say, look, this is not working, we're going to do it a different way. But I don't believe that those who've paid are going to be able to get a remedy.
Wayne Duvenage, thank you so much for your time here on Morning Prime. That was Outa Chairman Wayne Duvenage joining us on the phone line as Sanral gears up for another legal battle.